This is Leslie with the policies and legal frameworks that resulted. The court found for the plaintiffs, the Chinese students and their families. The court based its decision on Section 601 of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits discrimination based on race, color, or national origin in any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Since the San Francisco United School District received such assistance, it had to assure that all students had the same opportunities to obtain an education in their school system. In other words, the legal framework of equality carried the day. Mr. Justice Douglas, writing for the court, said, "There is no equality of treatment merely by providing students with the same facilities, textbooks, teachers, and curriculum. For students who do not understand English are effectively foreclosed from any meaningful education. Basic skills are at the very core of what these public schools teach. Imposition of a requirement that, before a child can effectively participate in the educational program, he must have already acquired these basic skills is to make a mockery of public education." This was a landmark decision. Carlos Ovando and Mary Carol Combs say, "The landmark U.S. Supreme Court decision of Lau versus Nichols has had by far the most significant impact in defining the legal responsibility of schools serving limited English proficient students." What were the policies and impact? If a student can't understand the language of instruction, there is no equality. There have to be mechanisms in place to teach students in English or in their first language so that they can attain the basic skills promised to them. The U.S. Supreme Court suggested bilingual education and ESL as ways to educate ELLs. However, it did not mandate specifics. As a result of the decision, bilingual programs grew. There was an increased awareness in the nation for the need for bilingual education, and Nichols versus Lau became a precedent for further legislation supporting education of ELLs. After Lau, in San Francisco specifically, a coalition of Asian, Latino, Black, and white parents sued to ensure that San Francisco schools complied with the finding. The result was a state-of-the-art bilingual education plan that stressed the maintenance of the students' Chinese or Spanish skills after they learned English, a true bilingual education with an outcome that Sonia Nieto would endorse. There was a wider impact on the language minority students across the United States. There was a nationwide growth of bilingual programs. Also, further legislation was enacted. In 1975, the Lau remedies went further than Nichols versus Lau. These remedies ensured that there were guidelines for identifying language minority students. There were guidelines for assessing their English language proficiency. There were guidelines for ensuring appropriate instruction. And there were standards for teachers of minority language students. The federal requirements for schools mandated that they demonstrate effective programming for ELLs. The Office of Civil Rights carries out compliance reviews to ensure that school districts support their ELLs. Lau versus Nichols of 1974 still has an impact today. In the era of English-only attitudes, this Supreme Court decision makes a powerful argument when advocating for our English language learners and their right to an equal education. Here are our references.